Hello and welcome to another episode of Kaffee und Kuchen with Internationals. Today we have with us Savina. I'm very happy to have you here, Savina. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, Sanchi, and thank you for having me here as well. So, yeah, my name is Savina. I've moved to Germany in 2015 to pursue my master's. Yeah, since then I've been here, but in the middle, after about staying here for about 6 years, I moved back to India. I got married and I came back here again. For job. So I've studied here, I've lived here, I've worked here for a couple of years now. Yeah, so it's been great.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's that's
Mhm.
very interesting. It's very interesting that you came here for studies and then
Right.
you went back and then you came back again as an employee, like
Yes,
on a
exactly. Yeah,
working
yeah,
visa. So you kind of
yeah,
have, I would say, like a perspective of both,
right. Yeah,
groups of
yeah,
people, the ones who come here to study and the ones who come here to work.
yeah.
I want to maybe I want to start off by asking you, what was the main difference in your experience of moving here as a student and moving here as an employee?
Um, Financial security for one, I would say, for starters. Well, as an employee and as a student, it's two different worlds, right? Yeah, well, as a student, as you know, like the master's was in English, so I really didn't have to uh, maybe take an extra effort or something. So I just came in because having studied my entire life in English, language as my language of instruction as English, so it was okay to come and study again a master's in English. But then after that you have to know German to get a job if you are from a non-IT field, which I
Hmm.
am from. So yeah, so that was a bit of a struggle, I would say, definitely, after I finished my master's to find my first job before, yeah, I could get some financial stability. And the big difference for moving here after, my short stint in my home country was that I was already fluent with the language.
Hmm.
So it was way easier to, let's say, get going on, with the
Hmm.
job right from the start. Yeah, so that would be one big difference, I would say. Yeah.
So to kind of summarize it, the biggest difference was maybe for you in your experience knowing the language and how it made everything a lot easier for you.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. It opens so many doors,
Yeah.
actually. As I said, from a non-IT field, because you are dealing with everyone or like your customers in your company or whoever is involved,
Hmm.
the entire process
Hmm.
along. If you are having German customers, then you are expected to know German, which is kind of sad also, considering how much of potential there could have been if, it was kind of a bilingual
Hmm.
by nature or bicultural or something like this, because there's so many talent from non-German countries who are waiting to get these kind of skill jobs. So yeah, this, I would say, because of knowing the language, yes, it made my life much 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 more easier. And not just easier in that sense, I also had the confidence to approach someone and talk, right? Before I stepped to Germany for the first time, I did learn basic German up until B1 level. But I studied it in India. I mean, I learned it in India, and you really don't have that much of practice. You know it on your paper level. You can understand some
Yeah.
sentences and stuff, but you really can't be fluent enough to talk technical subject. I'm still learning, by the way. I'm still not fluent in the technical aspect of the language. Well, conversational is it's no problem. But yeah, so yeah, that kind of, yeah, as I said, opened a lot of
Yeah.
doors. Yeah,
Yeah.
I started getting interview calls only when I could say or speak or introduce myself in
Hmm.
German or
Hmm.
understand the subjects in German, so to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So it's very interesting because you said basic German and then you said B1. And I think for a lot of people, B1 is already quite advanced. Yeah. So I want
Yeah,
to.
yeah, I would say it's intermediate, sure, but yeah, what I was telling you with that from my
Yeah.
experience, even though I had B1, I couldn't really talk German.
Okay. Yeah.
I could only be like ich heiße, ich komme aus, ich bin so und so Jahre alt, all this basic stuffs only. If I had to really express myself, yeah, well, I have done now until C1. So now I feel like, yeah, I can,
Yeah.
I can manage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so that's a very good point that you can be a certain level on paper, but you also have to be the
Definitely.
same
Yeah,
level,
yeah,
in
yeah.
real life, let's say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that definitely comes by practice.
Hmm.
So, only when you're interacting with Germans and talking on regular basis is when you pick up so many words that you don't necessarily pick up in a classroom. And even to get to know, what do you say, be one with the culture, so to say,
Hmm.
yeah, a classroom can only do so much for you. But being right here and in the situation, that is when I feel like you will start feeling to be like a part of it,
Yeah.
part of a whole. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So from this, I picked up 2 points, right? So one
Mm-hmm,
was, of course, language, so fluency, practice
mm-hmm,
in sort of real situations, and two
mm-hmm.
was to interact as much as possible with the locals, right? So with Germans, be it colleagues, be it
Right,
friends, be it
friends. Yeah,
a
yeah.
tandem buddy or whatever, right?
Exactly. Anyone.
Can
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's quite interesting. So I think that's also sort of a good way to start, like for at least those of us who want to be here for the long term, to sort of
Definitely. Yeah.
kind of get to know the local culture, to
Mm-hmm,
get included in the society, and
mm-hmm.
to understand the society better as
Yeah,
well,
sure.
right?
I mean, as I said, like being from a non-IT field, right? Sure, okay, you can survive your job without the language, but you're not living in your job 24 hours. You're living
Yeah,
outside the space of your office. So if your Auslander Behörde is sending you a long letter, you should be in a position to understand that. So you can't just be running to your neighbors and knocking their doors and asking you to translate all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are kind of the challenges which I felt got sorted out once I
Hmm.
could start dealing with the language. Yeah, myself. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
that's good because then it gives you sort of a sense of independence, right? So
Right,
that you're
definitely.
independent with the
Yeah,
issues.
yeah, yeah. Independence, and from there you definitely get self-confidence
Yeah.
as well. So
Yes.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it all
yeah,
kind of fits together, right? So
yeah,
you're
exactly.
fluent in the language. Through that, you get an entry into the culture,
Hmm.
into the society, the systems, how they work. Gives you
Hmm.
confidence. In turn, this is good for you to use your potential.
To the maximum, I would say. Yeah.
Exactly. So that goes to say that sure, it comes with its fair share of hard work, but that would be the case anywhere, right?
Hmm. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I guess for us we don't feel it that much because English is kind of basically our second language, right? But
Yes,
if we
exactly.
didn't speak English and we moved, for example, to the
Yeah,
US or something,
yeah.
we would be in the
For
same
someone coming
situation.
from, I don't know, a Southern American country,
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know, like for them, even if they had to move to UK or something, I don't know,
yeah,
they still would need to learn the language. So,
yeah,
well, since I personally, on a personal level, I like learning languages, so
yeah.
that was never really a problem for me. It was a challenge, sure, because my livelihood depended on knowing that language, sort of a thing. But it was fun learning the language, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. How many languages do you speak already? Six?
I can understand about eight. Yeah,
Eight. Wow,
yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Also a little bit of Italian. I started learning
Oh,
Italian, but
okay. So you're bored with German now, huh?
I would actually like to say I'm like a jack of all trades but
Yeah,
master of none. So I know enough in all these languages
yeah.
to survive. So
That's
yeah,
good.
that's
That's
what.
good. That's
Yeah,
already
yeah.
quite good. That's very interesting to see that you're now learning Italian as well. So there's a ninth
Not
language.
as of now. I did start learning. I was until
Okay.
A1. I finished my A1 level.
Okay.
Yeah, but then it's taken a break for now. I don't know when I'm going to start it again, but yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
great. Um, so I want to maybe go to something. Well, it can be fun. Maybe it's not fun. I don't know, but we will find out. um, what was the one culture shock that you had when you moved here as a student, and what was the one culture shock that you had when you moved here as an employee?
Okay, culture shock. as a student, maybe I was way too excited, just being in Europe, the first thrill and everything. But I would say from a university perspective, for me, the entire the system, so to
Mm.
say, how the education system is here, it's more like you dependent. Like
Mm.
it's on the student how much they want to pursue a particular subject or a topic or a lecture or an internship or whatever it is. Whereas in India, back in India, it's more like that you have a structure and you just follow it.
Yeah.
So it's I wouldn't like to say spoon fed. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
right word, but it's more like you don't really have to take the responsibility of
Mm-hmm.
knowing, oh, this is my syllabus now, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what exactly I want. But here it was a little bit different when I started. So that was, I think, one of the biggest culture shocks for me, that like how free it was in that sense.
Mm.
In a way, it is freeing, very much so, but you should also be knowing what you want. So unless you know what you want, um, the freedom of choice is also not a great thing, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. So yeah, that was, I think, a big
Yeah.
culture shock for me.
Yeah.
In that, I was like, okay, what do I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? I used to consult, my seniors from
Yeah.
previous years, ask them what they were doing, try to do that, and it was, yeah. I guess it was a learning stage, so it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, as an employee, I don't know if I had any culture shock,
mm.
honestly. I just felt much more acceptance knowing
Mhm.
German now. And also it was when I came back from India back to Germany, it was my first non-research field job. So like I was
Mm.
first in an actual like office or like industry-based job. So I think that in itself, but that's not really a German difference, I would say
Mm.
so. That's just a personal thing for me.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, what I felt. But I guess it was more of acceptance, I would say. Knowing the language. I mean, it's not like if you don't know the language, you can't live at all here. There are like very much international cities like Berlin
Mm.
and stuff, right? Or Frankfurt even maybe. But like I feel like you can relate to a German on a more personal level, right? Like
Mm.
it's not very transactional at that point.
Mm. Mm.
So I guess maybe they are threatened if you're only talking to them in English. And mind you, Germans speak good English.
Yeah.
They're just shy, I think, honestly. I mean, yeah. So somewhere, that knowing this language also kind of
Mm.
helps you connect to them on a personal level,
Mm.
and not just make it business-like.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So then that means there is a sense of trust
Yeah.
between the two parties.
Yeah.
So that makes things much more easier, life's less complicated. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it's so like you said, knowing the language also kind of creates some trust because maybe also they are more free to communicate, in a
Yes.
language that they
Yeah,
know that's
yeah,
familiar to them.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
Mm.
I want to come back to maybe this. So you had a gap between, being in Germany as a student and then as an employee. So what made you come back to Germany? Was it just that you were looking for a job and you found one in Germany, or was it a conscious decision to look for something in Germany?
A bit of both, actually. In my field, for one thing, I couldn't really find a good job matching my kind of, I don't know, expectations in India. I did search a lot and I couldn't land a good job in that sense. And number two, I just felt since I spent a major chunk of my formative years, my early 20s in Germany, I think I relate now more towards a German, I won't say like a German society, but just more like freedom of being here
Yeah.
and, just how easier things are in general. So maybe I wanted that as well. So
Mm.
it was the overall package of just having a
Mm.
job and just having, some sort of
Yeah.
independence in
Yeah.
some sense.
Yeah. So you mentioned it being easier. So easier in what sense? Because dealing with the Ausländerbehörde is not exactly easy.
No, that is not easy. Yeah, but then somehow for me, in both the instances, it worked out because I wasn't living in a big city.
Mm.
So I was initially in Paderborn and then
Mm-hmm.
now in Bioblingen, which are like
Mm-hmm.
tiny towns. So here there is really a big trauma of Ausländerbehörde.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay, I would say, for now. But yeah, if that's the reason I fear moving to Stuttgart, because of all the nightmares I hear from the
Yeah.
big city. So yeah. rather not.
I have
Yeah.
to say, the Ausländerbehörde in Hamburg is at least the one that I had. They were very nice.
It's also
Yeah.
online and it's
Yeah,
methodical.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
when you moved to Germany for work, did you have to go through some kind of I don't know, integration process? Did you have some workshops or something? Because you
Hmm.
moved here as an employee, and I've heard that from a lot of other people who move here as employees
Hmm.
that they have to take some kind of courses called as
Hmm.
integration
Hmm.
courses, right? Did you also have
Right.
that?
So I did not have that when I came back from India.
Hmm.
Because I've already had my formal degree here,
Hmm.
right, in Germany. And right after I finished my master's, with the help of the job center, I started attending the German language class.
Mm.
So that's where I actually continued further B2 and C1 and finished the entire course. And by the way, it was only then that I could land a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that in that sense was already a part of the, I don't know, so-called integration course or so.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I in my case, I specifically didn't have,
Hmm.
but I know many of my friends who came here on, let's say, their spouse moved here first, and
Yeah.
then they had to come. So I had so many of such classmates in my German language
Hmm.
course. So they all had to take the integration,
Hmm.
the course, the extra course before
Hmm.
they started learning their language classes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And did you have because I remember so because I took the courses at university that were
Hmm.
offered to us along with the master's course, and I remember in one of them, I think it was A2 at the end. It was somewhere around Christmas, like the last class, and we all sang "O Tannenbaum" together. So that was like a little bit of culture in there, you know. So, but that was about, I think, the maximum, and the other complaint letters, right? This was in B.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. That was actually a kind of a culture shock now that you mentioned, because who teaches you to write a complaint letter, right? And then the more you get to know German, you realize, okay, yeah, I know now I need a complaint letter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I have to say that was quite handy because I have written many complaint letters.
Same. Yeah, yeah, sure. And yeah, most of it to say to the particular transport system. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I was wondering, if in your German courses you also had some of these little elements, that gave you sort of an insight into the
yeah,
society,
sure. Yeah,
because
yeah.
you did till C1, right? I stopped after B1 and then I just learned on the go. But I've heard that maybe in C1 you get a deeper insight into
Yeah, sure.
culture and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. Pretty much, I mean, our teachers used to take us to visit the museums actually
Hmm.
and, give us an insight into that sort of a social, cultural aspect. And we also had some sort of cooking celebrations and also some cultural celebrations. I forgot on what particular day it was. It was some particular day, which now I can't recollect. But we were all free to showcase our own country's
Hmm.
culture as well. So I knew some of my Russian, colleagues
Hmm.
doing their, cultural dances,
Hmm.
and even our teachers participating in the German stuff, and having to eat the German food or the other
Hmm.
cultures' food. So we basically had that sort of a celebration as well.
Hmm.
So it was not just purely classes, so to say. Yeah, yeah,
So it's a very good, I guess it's a very good entry into the German society, right? Taking like a good
yeah,
language course
yeah,
and
yeah,
going
yeah,
going all the way to the higher levels, not
yeah,
necessarily C1, but at least B2, to
yeah, yeah,
better
yeah.
understand what's happening, right?
Yeah, I would say a language is perhaps one of the most things that an outsider, like, a non-German,
Hmm.
uh, would really require here.
Hmm.
But I wish in the future that is not the case.
Hmm.
Slowly we start. I mean, I totally understand that you're coming to Germany. You're depending on them,
Hmm.
sort of a thing, on their jobs and such, and their social policies and everything. But at the same time, Germany is also dependent on us, people like
Yeah.
us, aging population. So many of
Hmm.
them are going to go into, retirement soon, and then you need you need enough, skilled laborers to take
Yeah.
up those jobs. And if you're only going to think that it has to happen in German, I mean, you can always find a 50-50 compromise, right? Like, you don't have to have hard and fast rules saying, no, if without German, you're not going to, don't even
Yeah.
apply for this job. See halfway through with that candidate. I
Yeah.
mean, because English is also an international language. Not to say that, you don't have to know German at all, but maybe it's like, find some kind of balance. This, I would
Yeah.
say, because this on a personal level would really, be useful to me, because I'm also planning on getting my spouse back here
Yeah.
to the country. And the only thing holding him back right now is the language.
Wow.
I mean, even though he was a student here in Germany earlier, but yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, so this is not to say for any one particular field or one particular area or something. Throughout Germany, I mean, this kind of a mindset has to come, that eventually you can't, I mean, this is not sustainable to just be like, hey, who is coming to Germany, you better learn German, and, German classes and stuff. So that, I don't see that way. I mean, you can't really remove an individual and then
Yeah.
make them like a craft, like a robot, or just make them live as a German, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I guess maybe like for some professions it's a different story, like doctors or medical professions, right?
Mhm,
But I guess for some others, like engineers
mhm.
or I don't know, maybe you're an English teacher,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
whatever, right? So maybe a, I don't know, a compromise that I've seen in practice at least is, that you hire someone and they sort of learn German on the job, right? So
Yes, definitely.
so
That's a excellent idea, actually. That's a way to go, I would say. Instead of then just them, that's actually a good thing, because you take a candidate relying on the fact that they're willing to learn German
yes, exactly.
and help them. Then
Yeah,
they know the job. The only thing stopping them is,
yeah,
the language. So
yeah,
they can always pick it up by, talking, interacting with others. So
yeah, yeah,
that shouldn't be that big of a deal.
yeah, yeah. I think maybe what's missing is a little bit of trust, but also maybe a little bit of familiarity,
Mhm,
because maybe the ones that are on the hiring side don't feel comfortable enough to work with someone in English, so they don't want to hire anybody
mhm.
who doesn't speak German,
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, maybe it also helps to upskill this, right? Because you have to
Mm.
constantly upskill yourself. And if it's a mixed society, at some point you will have more than one languages. Yeah, be it
Yes, exactly.
Spanish, be it
Yeah.
English, be
Yeah.
it whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could be probably a good
Hmm.
solution. I don't know.
Yeah. Hmm.
So this brings me maybe to a topic that I've had with recently, actually in the recent years, with a lot of different people, which is, people say that, yeah, you have integration courses, but they are often very one-sided, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, you get to know about the German society, German language, la la la, but on the other side, which is, you know, the German society, they have no idea of who's coming in. They just
Yeah.
don't know where to start. So, what has, in your experience, this been like? Have you experienced this kind of, oh, hey, they could also benefit from some information about the people coming here, or maybe in workplace or somewhere else? Have you also had such experiences?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I can give you some sort of an example which I
Mm-hmm.
personally relate to or had an experience. For example, in my previous job, I had some of my colleagues and they were talking about some band, some music band, and I had no idea who they were. Okay, I don't want to take the name because I
Mm-hmm.
later realized they're like really famous.
Okay.
But that's not the point. The point is, from India, we have so much of our own music, our own films, our own culture, that I don't necessarily have to look towards the West to,
Mm-hmm.
to know some cultural kind of a cultural, I don't know, a thing, what's the current popular band or some
Mm.
kind of a movie. I mean, I do watch everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I do watch frequently, but that doesn't mean I can watch everything and be on
Yeah.
par as an American or
Yeah.
someone from UK or something,
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, but they have no clue how vast our cultural,
Mm.
talents and cultural and social ideas and the vibrancy is basically,
Mm.
the kind of music we have. That's where I felt like, okay, I just can't even explain to them something like this because that'll just perhaps just go over their head. I don't
Mm.
know if they have even the patience to even know
Mm.
what I'm talking about. So that's where I felt like, okay, maybe I don't know this band, but so you don't know, if I
Yeah.
take a name of a famous singer in India, even you wouldn't know who he is or
Yeah.
she is. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's one thing. Or then if something related to cricket or something,
Yeah.
again, I'm not a big fan of cricket or something, but still, you just have the small moments of joy when
Yeah.
India wins something, and then you're not able to share with anyone because nobody has a clue what it
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, in your opinion, or in your, let's say, imagination,
Hmm.
how would an exchange from the other side look like? Like, how would you, let's say,
Hmm.
sensitivize the German society to the cultural backgrounds of all these people who are coming in from different parts of the world, right? Because it's impossible to go in so much detail, right?
Exactly.
But how would it look like for you, like if you had to sensitivize, or if you had to share something from your culture to them?
Okay, perhaps the one thing I could think of is, so when you see me, obviously you would know I'm some sort of a South Asian, some form of the other, right? So the moment you see me, don't put me in this Shublad and Denken. Like, immediately put me in a box, stereotype, and okay,
Mhm.
they're the ones eating spicy food, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah.
Right? It's not that way. So give this person a chance. Let
Mm.
them explain. The moment you see them, don't jump to a conclusion, I
Mm.
would say. Like maybe, this person has their own story. They have
Mm.
their own individuality.
Mm.
And it's not just about from where they come from. So
Yeah.
it's much more than just I'm from India, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, so something like this. So maybe just be an active listener, be a little
Mm-hmm.
open to listen at
Mm-hmm.
least,
Yeah.
and knowing that this person could also have a say in something, or this person
Mm-hmm.
also has endured something,
Yeah.
has gone through certain experiences
Yeah.
which has shaped them to be how they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this could be, of course, it's not possible for them to know every dish in every country from
Yeah.
every immigrant that's coming. I'm not talking like that. That's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But just be open and not immediately say, okay, he's from that country, that means he's out to scam us or something,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just maybe just leave that kind of prejudices away
Yeah.
and just be a little open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that could definitely
Yeah.
be, yeah, just like the thought of including someone
Mm.
socially, basically like a social
Yeah.
inclusion, so to say. Yeah.
So kind of like to go with, let's say, maybe not zero expectations, but like a blank slate, and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
just learn about the other person outside of what you've
Just their
maybe
race or
saw
their,
watched on
right.
TV,
Yeah,
or
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
And
kind of,
FYI, not all Indian food are spicy, so
yes, it's true.
yeah. Yeah.
Just yesterday, I had food that was not spicy.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
No, but that's true. So sort of, you're suggesting sort of an approach that's focusing more on them just being humans, rather than,
Individuals, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
rather than them
Yeah.
coming from, I
From
don't know.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe this individual doesn't know your language yet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they are out to get you or
Yeah.
harm you in some sort of a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just give everyone a chance. Like
Yeah.
if they have come and made their journey all the way until here, that means there is some pull that has brought them here, right? So there is
Yeah.
some drive in this person who has come here.
Yeah.
So yeah, just give them a chance, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess it's,
yeah.
maybe for the listeners, maybe we also have some German listeners, I don't know, for whom this might be a little bit abstract. So maybe to put it in perspective, it's kind of like how people stereotype I think Germans is Brezels and Lederhosen and beer,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that was obviously when I only knew that, right?
Yeah, but
Uh,
then you came here and then
and then I was like, yeah, the north of Germany has got nothing to do with pretzels or lederhosen or drindel. Yeah, right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so I think it does help to look at people as individuals and not,
Hmm.
like you
Yeah.
said, in
Yeah.
Schubladen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that's a very very good takeaway. I think that would benefits everybody, even those who come to Germany. Like you said, when you came to Germany, you
It's for
also
both the
just
sides,
had, yeah,
actually. Yeah, even for me, like, it's a learning thing for me as well.
yeah,
Maybe I see someone from the Far East, and I'm like, oh, they're like that, or oh no, they're like this.
yeah,
So it's just, as I think it's more than a German learning. I think we as a society should adopt,
yeah,
this kind of a value, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a very very good takeaway. That especially in current times where people move a lot. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of mobility. There's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the people don't live and die in the same place anymore. I guess, well, of course,
Exactly.
some
Yeah.
do, but there's a lot more mobility than before, right? So I
Yeah.
guess having such an open set, like an open attitude towards things, is definitely going to help our society a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, for example, some people, we would have moved from country A to country B and then just it. But there are people who are moving countries throughout their lives, like every 5 years. So they possibly don't have enough time to really get into deep dive into the culture of every country that they're going.
Mm,
So all these are, like, I guess, practical aspects of just how we are globalizing, and how there's really no such kind of borders, so to say. It's
yeah,
just so free right now, and I guess we need to open our minds as well,
yeah,
to that level.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
guess maybe a good part of this is also when you look at people as individuals, you may even find, or actually, I guess in more cases than not, you might find something that you have in common that you can
Exactly.
relate
Yeah.
to beyond sort of
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
layer of language and culture and I don't know, food or
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe there is something out there, like, you relate to, you have something in common, because ultimately we're all human beings,
yeah,
so we just want to live, as a community, right? We're
yeah,
not like living as islands. So yeah, deep down everyone has their insecurities, I would say. So
yeah.
not just the immigrants who are
Yeah.
coming here, but also the host societies. So yeah.
I think that's a great. How do I call it? I don't want to call it
Yeah.
a summary, but that's a great end message, I guess, to our session.
Hmm.
Is there anything before we close? Is there anything that you would like to give out to the listeners, irrespective of whoever they are, wherever they're coming from, in whatever bodies they're floating?
I guess just be kind, really. I mean, just be kind. Like,
Yeah,
that is not going to affect you. It's not going to take anything away from you. Maybe it will just make an immigrant's life a little easier. So
yeah,
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 yeah, and it goes both ways also.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
not going to say that only the Germans in this case have to be kinder to the immigrants, and then they just do whatever they
yeah,
want. No, I don't mean that, but yeah, definitely, I think, I guess if we all see from someone else's perspective as well, it would help us a lot, a
yeah,
lot. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a very beautiful message, Savina. Thank you so
Mm-hmm,
much for
mm-hmm,
for being on our podcast.
mm-hmm.
Very happy to have had you here. Very happy to have had this
Thank you for
perspective.
having me. Yeah, yeah.
And thank you to the listeners for listening. And see you next time.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.